On today's show, bad hair, fast gains, and cracked backs. Let's go.
To the Front, the show that answers questions for stock show families. Presented by TTF Nutrition, livestock supplements that get you to the front.
Welcome to the front. I'm Tony Morris, joined as always by the lovely and talented Thomas Gross. Tell me all about Thomas and his monochrome gray with his black hat. Tell me about your world today, Thomas.
Well, I figure if we can make things less colorful in life, I can match them a little easier. You get too vibrant and you can't match things together.
Well, I opted to be vibrant today.
I like your shirt today. Are those pigs or cows on there?
These are pigs. This is the MWI attire, sponsored by Aurora Pharmaceuticals. A little cheap plug to Aurora. This was our attire for one of the days at the World Pork Expo out in Des Moines. And my team told me they didn't think I'd ever wear it in public. And so what the hell, I wore it today. Let's go.
Oh, there you go. Is in your hotel room count as public? Or
I did get out and allow people to see me, but I am definitely inside right now. So we'll make this we'll call it public, and nobody but you is going to call me out for it. So here we go.
Here's a fun thing. Speaking of public, a couple weeks ago, I called somebody out. And I made a little video about a review that we had received from somebody that thought we were city slickers. And interestingly enough, after standing in front of a giant field next to my house, that review was deleted. But the good news is that's not the only review that we've had so far on this podcast. So, I figured I'm going to read a couple of these, and I just thought I'd let the people know what your peers are thinking, right? First one comes from somebody named Banner Hangers. And so if you're hanging banners, I should probably listen to you. So this seems like probably somebody that knows what they're talking about. And they said, top quality answers to questions that we've had or have had, and sometimes think we're the only ones that don't know what's going on. Audio quality is A+, which I love, and it's family friendly. So, that's because they don't hear the outtakes maybe. But, Banner Hangers seems to know what's going on.
I like it. Nice job, Banner Hangers.
The other review that we had, Slick Willie 256 left us a review. So I don't know who that could be, but they gave us a 1-star review.
Oh.
And they said mid.
Or mid?
Mid. Well, I would think if I rate something mid, I'd give it at least 3 out of 5 stars.
Hit the middle.
Hit the middle.
It's what my uncle used to call Bill Clinton. So,
I was going to ask if we should listen to Bill Clinton or Banner Hangers about livestock things.
I'm sorry that we're just mid. Hopefully a purple shirt will move us up the scale just a little bit, get us out of the middle.
And Slick Willie, if you've got some things that you'd love for us to change about our podcast, at least leave a little bit more of a comment, and we'd love to read it. And, we always want to improve and be as helpful as we can with families, as much as we love having a fun time too. So.
But thank you for the review, even if we're just meh.
So everybody else that's out there, drop by, leave us a review. We'd love to hear it. If you think it's mid, tell us why you think it's mid. Go ahead and give us 5 stars, though, if you don't mind, and then tell us what we could do better. But otherwise, send us a message if you really think we're actually mid, and we'll try to do better for you next time.
I don't know if I've ever been mid.
You either hate me or love me. You're very rarely mid on what I'm doing. William sent in a question over here. So he said, have you ever had a pig whose skin and hair seemed dingy no matter what you did?
Yes.
So I thought this was great. We know how important skin and hair is. And even when you're working at it, I think this individual, I kind of conversed with him back and forth. They tried a few different things, and they still couldn't get that skin and hair quite as bright white as they would like for it to be. So, Tony, what suggestions do you have for somebody trying to get their pig as bright white as they can?
Well, and I'm sure William's doing this, so just for everybody else that's trying to kind of fight these battles or make better skin, I think your skin quality is always going to look a lot like the quality of your pins and how clean your pins are, right, for starters. So if your pigs are laying in dirt or laying on dirty shavings and laying in wet, urine stained shavings all the time, then that's what their skin's going to look like too. So if you want them to look brighter, they need to be in a brighter, cleaner environment all the time. I think it's the number one thing. Number two is, bright skin is the healthy skin. And healthy skin doesn't always mean we scrub them with soap all the time, right? So I think understanding that, how to keep skin hydrated, how to keep skin healthy in those regards, shampooing once, maybe twice a week, brushing hard to get off dead skin, but letting skin be kind of healthy and hydrated, I think is another part of having really bright skin. And then the other thing is just overall health. And I'm not trying to say that this is a problem for anybody, but the healthier animal oftentimes is reflected in their skin. So if they're having constant digestion problems, or they're one that's just kind of chronically got respiratory issues or something that way, typically they have a little duller look to them. And so I think healthy animals that are in very clean pens, that have healthy skin and not overly dried or overly oily skin, is kind of the baseline where you need to start. But sometimes you do all that and they're still a little dingy. We had a blue bear we showed last fall that came out of, we kind of got him late. He had been in a commercial barn, in a grower for a while. And when those things lay around on slats, they get just a funk on them that's hard to get off. And man, we had to use some more, exciting methods. We had to use some, hair bleach and get after him, kind of like we were, fixing him up to go to the prom. And the other thing we found out with us is we've got really, really rusty water where I live. We're on a well and our water is orange if you don't do anything. And we had to put in a water filter into the barn, both for the drinking water and for what's going to the wash rack, because our orange water would keep them dingy looking, just because the water was never quite clean. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. You got to be healthy. Skin's got to be healthy. Pens got to be clean. Water that you're using for them needs to be clean. And then, there's some things you can do in terms of hair bleaches and that sort of thing to make them even brighter that way. But Thomas, you show a pile of those white ones. What's your skin routine like to deal with dinge?
Yeah, like a lot of things that kind of go on in the show pig world, I think sometimes genetics play a little bit of a role in this too, right? So we've showed a landrace gilt this year, and she was bright white and hairy when we bought her. And I wouldn't say her pen is cleaner than any other pig in the barn, but she is always, for whatever reason, brighter whenever we go out there. So some of them just seem to have a brighter skin and hair coat from the kind of jump on things. But the ones that are not, I've got one on the opposite end of the spectrum. I've got a barrow right now that, to your point, no matter how much we seem to clean his pen, number one, he's a disgusting animal, and he will go to the bathroom and lay down immediately, and just frustrating to us. But when one of the things that we're always, we've always got a pitchfork out there, and we're kind of on everybody. As soon as you walk by that pen, let's pick them all as often as we can and get all those wet shavings out as often as we can. Pretty particular on what kind of shavings we use, right? So there's a lot of different shavings out there, and some of them are definitely brighter white than others. And so I want to get the brightest and whitest and fluffiest shaving that I can get my hands on. Unfortunately, sometimes those shavings are a few extra dollars to purchase on the front end of that. But in my mind, it seems to pay off for us that skin and hair is just a little bit brighter on those as well. And then, if you still get to the show, and I'll tell you, we've done this with this bear when we've shown him a couple times. Unfortunately, then we've got to resort to some of the different paint products, or I shouldn't say unfortunately. I'd say that's why they're there, right? And so there's the white polishes of the world, where, Weaver makes a great white polish there where you put it on, brush it into their skin. And I always kind of explain it like a little bit of spray, a lot of brushing, and we can build up in layers and get those pigs a whole lot brighter white and brighter looking, if we can't keep their skin and hair perfectly yellow. There's some shows, though, that are going to, and our state fair is one of them, that's going to where no paint allowed on these things. And in that case, is continue to do your work, do your bleach at home. And I will tell you, I've also seen, though, by applying that white polish, we'll apply it one night, we'll rinse them the next morning, do that for 2 or 3 days in a row, and it almost stains their skin and hair. So we can show them without that on them, but that they get a lot brighter and a lot whiter by doing that. And so those are kind of some of the things that we think about, when trying to keep that skin and hair as clean as we possibly can.
Yeah, the first person I saw use that white polish earlier than just right before show day was our buddy Doug Albright. And one year at Expo years ago, 2 nights before they showed them, they would put white on them, and the next morning rinse out, and then the night before they did it again, and then it came down to right before they went in the ring, they didn't hardly use any. That was a spot where you could use it, but it doesn't take much if you go ahead and allow that stuff to do its work a couple times before you get started. That's a really, really good tip.
And the great thing there is, remember, even if you are allowed to use it, that puts a layer on that pig's skin and on their hair, and it heats them up a whole lot more. And, I've had plenty of them where it's a warm day outside. We go ahead and paint them. They get hot a whole lot faster, right? And you put that paint and then you put oil on top of them, and they seem to struggle with the heat a whole lot more. And so be careful with it, but it's there. It's a useful tool. Just use it as a tool. Practice at home too, because you and I have both seen plenty of bad paint jobs.
I'm guilty.
You and I think, have both applied plenty of bad paint jobs, right? Like, I don't know how many times I've gone way too heavy and then sprayed way too much water on it, and it starts running as soon as we come out the holding pen, and I just kind of drop my head in shame. But practice at home, get them out, drive them like you're going to show them, and you'll kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah, that stuff always looks different in different lighting too. So if you are going to use one of those products, I think getting them out and trying to get into some natural lighting and then getting some barn lighting really changes the way they look. So doing it early and getting that practice for applying and then practice for how to apply it is a big helpful tool when you're using those coloring agents.
Hey, next question that we got then from Nathan. He said, my gilt needs another 25 to 30 pounds to look her best, and the fair is 11 days away. How can I put on pounds fast? And before you jump into this, Tony, if you say cake mix, I'm just going to log off and give up. That's the number one answer that I always see people say, grab cake mix and get them to eat while giving them cake mix. I've never once heard, somebody say your kid needs to gain a few pounds and they're not eating very well. Give them a box of cake mix. So, Tony, what do you do if we need to gain weight quickly that doesn't involve reaching for some confectionery items?
We've got this amazing thing that was invented a long time ago that's the best thing in the world for putting weight on show pigs, or any pigs for that matter, and it's called pig feed. And it's the best. So if you need them to gain more weight, they need to consume more feed. That's my number one advice. Now, are there other things we could use to supplement that? There certainly are. You need to increase energy in the diet. But you need those things to eat a lot. You need to get them to eat a lot. Now, a lot of times, if we have one that's behind the 8 ball from a weight standpoint, it's because they haven't been a good eater. Okay. And if that's what you're fighting, then the best thing to do, while you still have a little bit of time, you don't have much, but you got a little bit of time, is you got to fix that problem, right? That's maybe the root cause in a lot of cases. Not saying it is here, but in a lot of cases, when you have a weight problem, it's because they're not good eaters. And when they're not good eaters, they don't consume as much pig feed. And when they don't consume as much feed, they don't gain as much weight. So I would make them a good eater first. So how do I do that? If you want them to gain the most, sometimes the idea of slow down to go fast really applies. So make those things eat when you put feed in the feeder. And you do that by limiting the amount of time they have with it, by getting them to where they know when a cup of feed hits the feeder, it's my job to eat it. And then rather than keep feed in front of them all the time, I would feed that thing twice a day, maybe 3 times a day, in order to get them to eat more, but still on a limited schedule. The idea that put a self-feeder in there and all of a sudden they're going to gain more than they were before, I think is very contradictory. I think they'll actually eat more on a schedule. So that's my advice. No cake mix. Make them eat pig feed and make them good eaters of pig feed, and you'll get the most gain you can. From there, certain high energy products, fat products will help you just add more weight gain if you simply need pounds. The other thing to pay attention to is physical fill, right? And how much fill we can get them to cross the scales with to get where we need to. But good eaters that eat a lot of pig feed gain weight, period.
Yeah, and I think moving to 3 times a day from a feeding standpoint can be an option for you. But as Tony mentioned, cleaning out that feeder, 15, 20 minutes after you put feed in there. Sounds counterintuitive. They didn't eat everything I gave them, but I want them to eat. I'm now going to take it away for the next 4 hours. And, it's kind of making them, want it a little bit more the next time that you dump feed in there. The other thing that we'll do, a lot of times we're hitting this problem in July and August, and it's a lot of times hot out. And so we will get them out of their pen before we feed them. We'll take them to the wash rack. We will rinse them with cool water for 10, 15 minutes, get their body temperature cooled all the way down before bringing them back in and then letting them eat. If your weight, and this particular question said, we think that they need this weight to look their best. Well, if you've got 11 days and maybe we can get 2 pounds a day on them, we can gain 20 to 22 pounds. That final weight we might be able to get with just proper hydration and liquid, kind of right at the very end. And so, you guys have heard us talk about hydrate, and we're not here to necessarily plug everything, products necessarily, but to talk about that's a way if they will drink and consume more water and their body will retain more water. Now they've got a little bit more fill and a little bit more fluff to them, and they'd probably look a whole lot better in the show ring using a product like Hydrate to kind of finish them out.
Yeah, completely agree. If it's a difference between making the minimum weight for your show and just my gilt needs 20, 30 pounds to look her best, I think we've got more flexibility if we're just trying to make them look their best. But at the end of the day, I think the same principle applies, just like you said, like they got to eat. And if they don't eat, they probably aren't going to look their best and they're not going to gain a lot of weight.
You could probably even use some liquid, though, if you need to make it across the scales a few pounds heavier. Start in our case, hydrate a few days earlier, give them a bunch of liquid to drink. A gallon of water is 8 pounds, right? And so if we are 2 to 3 pounds away from not making weight, that's half a gallon of water. And it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. So if we can get them to drink a little bit more liquid, we might be able to get across the scales and kind of tick the right number there.
Yeah, and we always run I've heard a lot of people discuss both ways on if I need them to gain more, should I feed them wet or feed them dry? And kind of the argument on either side is gaining wet, typically that feed becomes more palatable. Seems like they digest it maybe even quicker and easier. A lot of times they flesh up more when you're feeding them wet. Part of that extra fluff I think you see is just the fact they're consuming more liquid and they're better hydrated. Kind of on the flip side of that is wet feed takes up more room in their belly, right? So in terms of the pounds of feed, oftentimes wet feed, they won't eat as much because it just weighs heavier in their belly. So play with that. If you've been feeding them dry and you're not happy with that, try moving them to wet feed, or vice versa. If you feed them wet and can't get them to eat enough, try just feeding them dry and see if you can increase consumption that way.
Third question that we received comes from Emily, but I've also seen this posted about 15 times kind of on some of the Show Pig forums that are on Facebook. Can you tell me about Dippity Pig and what should we do about it?
Ew. Yeah, this has got a ton of different names. I mean, I hear it called Dippity all the time. We just refer to it as cracked backs, the 3 lines. But it's kind of become a modern deal in show pigs, and I've not even heard real definitive proof as to what it is, right? Some folks tell me it's viral. Some folks tell me it's, genetic or whatever difference it could be, the fact they do it. But this is when their backs will crack. Typically they'll crack horizontally or kind of perpendicular to their spine, back over their loin, usually right in front of kind of their ham-loin junction. And you'll see, 3, I've had some of them break with 5 or 6 different spots when they broke really bad, but their skin literally cracks open right there. Okay. Well, I think the reason it got the name Dippity is it's extremely painful. And so when those pigs get up and begin to kind of stretch, then they get that pain in their back and they'll bow their back really quickly, and you'll hear them kind of squeal and almost fall down, sometimes fall down. So it's called Dippity Pig. What do you do about it? Well, I think this is a silly thing to say, but an ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure. If you can get on that and treat it very, very early, oftentimes you can get it to stop before you get the full-on crack or rupture of the skin. And if you can do that, your chances of success go way, way up versus treating what becomes a wound, right? So how do you get on it early? How do you notice it early? You got to pay attention and spend time on your projects. right? That's not going to stop it from happening, but it's going to allow you to catch it quicker. And most of the time that will first present as like 2 or 3 lines that just look wet across their back, right? And their skin kind of seeps. And I don't know how best to say it. A veterinarian will jump on here and tell me exactly what it is, but I just consider it their skin just kind of weeps in lines across their back. And as soon as you see those wet lines, start your treatment protocol immediately. And there's a series of, I'm not a veterinarian, so I kind of don't want to tell you what injectables to get, but there are topicals, there are injectables that we've used with success. But what always helps is if you catch it before it breaks and get it stopped before they break open. Once they break open, and you and I have both had this, one of the best pigs we ever had never could win a show because his back looked horrible. He broke as bad as any of them. And once you do that, then that becomes a wound, and it takes a long time for it to heal. And it usually never heals flat and smooth the way you want it to. You can always see where they crack. So get on it early. Talk to your veterinarian early. Your veterinarian, if they do show pig business, they know about cracked back. They will have a protocol they want you to use, and you need to know that well in advance of when you first see one crack. When we talk about having a relationship with your veterinarian, oftentimes this is the very first call you're going to make to them is, I think my pig's back is cracking, and they will have a protocol. Like I said, I'm not a vet, and so I want you to talk to your vet to get the protocol you want to use, but I've used a series of anti-infectives and steroids. I've used some topical products that work really well, but get on it early.
100%. And, I think I like to be prepared before that happens. And if you feed any number of show pigs, you're going to have this happen. So I would even say, don't wait until you start to see those lines. And even before they weep, you can sometimes just see some faint red lines kind of over their right in front of their hem-loin junction. And in our barn, that's sound the alarm. Hey, if any of the kids see this, run and get dad. Don't walk, run, and we're going to get on it quickly. But we've got our protocol in place that we've worked with our veterinarian on, and we have all the things on hand in advance. So I'd say if this is one of those prevention cures that you've talked about, don't wait until you see it to have the conversation with your veterinarian. Go ahead and have that conversation with them today. What will your protocol be when this happens for us? And then go ahead and have all those pieces there, because it seems to me that I will always see it. We'll get home from a jackpot show Saturday night at 11 o'clock. We'll be unloading, and that's the time that I'll notice it. My veterinarian's not going to pick up his phone at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night and say, swing by my house, and we're going to get you taken care of. So we've got to be prepared beforehand. The stuff for that travels in our show box all the time with us too, right? And so we get on that early.
You nailed it in my mind. Is like, I've got great veterinarians that I get to work with, right? I mean, we're blessed in the state of Indiana to have some of the best swine veterinarians and show pig veterinarians there are in the country, and know them well, work with them all the time. The key to it is, don't wait until it's 11:30 on a Saturday to say, oh, daggone, I better call Dr. So-and-so, see if I can get that by Monday. By Monday, you got huge problems, right? Have the conversation early and be prepared, and then spend the time to know that this is happening. And when you know it's happening, pull the trigger and get on it.
Even if you think it's happening, pull the trigger and get on it, right? Like, they might have laid up against the gate and created a red line kind of at their hem-loin junction. Doesn't matter. We're going to start our protocol for that. And we just, because to your point earlier, you said, it doesn't lay right. And what you'll see is if that breaks all the way open, their skin doesn't heal flat. And now not only is their skin not flat, now their hair sticks different directions. So their hair will stick straight up there. And so even if you clip it, that hair never lays back down. It's always standing up right there. It draws attention to the fact that there was a wound. You start looking, there's scars there. It throws off that balance from the side. And in a game of small micro percentages of differences between some of these elite pigs, it can make all the difference in the world. So, stay vigilant. Stay vigilant, stay safe, keep your head on a swivel at all points and times.
That's right. It is a tough deal. I'm over here in Springfield this week for the CPS show, and we felt like we brought good pigs, and the difference between us having the day that we're going to get on here and brag about and and a day that we would rather forget on the 4.5 hour drive home are going to be very, very, very small details. And something like a cracked back that you didn't treat in time that now makes your pig have a rough pattern when you get him on the profile, that's the kind of thing that makes you fifth in a class you thought you should win. And that's the kind of thing that makes you really mad. So get on it.
Absolutely. Awesome, guys. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Keep sending us your questions. I love that we're getting more and more of them in, things that you guys are seeing and experiencing in your barn. They don't have to just be show pig questions. If you've got some cattle questions, send them our way. If you've got a few goat questions, we will do our best. And if you've got some sheep questions, we can guess at that too, I suppose. But no, we've got enough friends that are experts in these.
That's right. We'll gladly get you the help we can. If you got questions on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the front, baby.
To the Front has been brought to you by TTF Nutrition. Livestock supplements that get you to the front.